Okay,
All right, we'll call over to the village board meeting at the Lisbon Village Hall on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024 at 6:34 PM. Roll call, please.
President Osterman.
Here.
Trustee Plotecker.
Here.
Trustee Moonen.
Here.
Trustee Quinn.
Here.
Administrator Nicholas.
Here.
Treasurer Gerard.
Here.
And Clerk Pazzaketch to record the minutes.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence, please. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is comments from citizens present. This would be the only time that citizens would be allowed to make any, have any part of discussion tonight. Does anyone wish to speak tonight? So citizens' comments is when the meeting starts, the meeting is between the board or at that point in time. So if you have anything you wanted to state to the board, this would be your opportunity to do it right now. You just have to step up, state your name and address. So that's the way it's done. Some people like it, some people don't, but just to let you know.
I guess in that case, I'd like to find out.
And here's the thing, just state your name and address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, jury, in the tax records, it's Gerald Belt. Address is N60W25884 Walnut Road. I guess my question would be, why is our comments limited to just this time period?
So
Why
there's
can't
usually,
somebody like me ask questions
There's
during the course of the meeting.
and this the way the meetings are set up for Robert's rules and such. And usually there's not back and forth discussion, but just to let you know, so this is the time you would tell us what your concerns are. We write them down. We can't have back and forth. That's how the meetings are set up. And then during the meeting, it always stays up at the boardroom table at that point. So any of us, it prevents things like discussing something that's not on the agenda, discussing things, forming like a forum on certain things that can't be at certain times. So I could explain that, like I said, we've had discussions, I could tell you more about that. In some ways, it really sucks, but in other ways, it holds the meeting to an order.
But I do know there's also doing that, keep it within a certain framework, you know. Don't have to digress during those kind of periods, but to keep it just at this beginning. This doesn't seem right to me.
Thank you. Is anyone on Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom would like to participate in citizen comment, please use the raise hand function. No hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered in one motion unless a village board member requests that an item be removed for separate consideration. We have the July 10th, 2024 village board minutes, special board minutes from 6/18/24, 6/26/24, 7/2/24, and 7/24/24. And approval of the letter of credit for October Fields surety in the amount of $2,196,000. Change of the start date for the fire EMS service contract from September 1st to November 1st. The card access installation by Complex Security Solutions in the amount of $29,539.46. The final pay request number 4 to Butine Peterson for LBPE improvements for $64,509.65. And termination of the Harvest Ridge Phase 3 letter of credit for $131,038.64. Is there anything the member would like to remove for separate consideration? That is their motion on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 5 is accounts payable. A, authorizing the payment of the Falls Auto Parts bill dated 7/26 for $690.80 and 8/8 for $155.32. Any discussion, or is there a motion on this check register?
I'll make a motion to accept the payment to Falls Auto Parts bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Paula, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item B, authorizing the payment of the remaining bills dated 7/26 for $258,574.58. And 8/8 for $241,417.40. Kathy,
And our top five expenses are $71,147.29 to Waukesha County Treasurer, $62,323.86 to sewer implement municipal sales, $28,173.82 to preliminary buildings inspections, $14,425.70 to Anthem Blue Cross, and $12,185.22 to municipal law and litigation. $87,212.40 to US Bank Corp., $71,147.29 to Waukesha County Treasurer, $15,033.23 to Cumberland Engineering, $14,060.30 to municipal law and litigation, and $11,991. I ask for your approval.
any questions or comments, or is there a motion on the item?
I'll get a motion to approve, bills for 7/26 and 88 check registers as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Becky, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item C, authorizing the payment of utility district bills dated 8/3 for $44,294.54.
All right, so we have, Ellers, for the sewer rate study, $4,500. Kunkel Engineering Group, for $10,922.50. And, Village of Sussex for $25,561.63. And that's for your approval.
Any questions or comments, or is there a motion on this item?
Make a motion to approve the utility district bills.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 6, announcements and correspondence. We have the Public Works and Utility Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 21st at 5 PM here at the Village Hall. The next Plan Commission meeting is on the 28th at 6:30 PM at the Richard Young Fire Station. Our next Park Committee meeting will be Wednesday, September 11th at 5 PM at the Village Hall. And then the next Village Board meeting after that will also be on September 11th at 6:30 here at the Village Hall. Does anyone else have any other announcements or correspondence? Item 7, Administrator Report.
All right, sorry I got this to you late, and it's really still in draft form. I was out the last few days ill, so I'm continuing to work on code. I worked with LFD and PFD on the equity coordination. We have weekly meetings or bi-weekly meetings depending on everyone's availability. Police services contract costs, this contract will cover our portion of the lieutenant position, which for this next contract year, which is currently filled by Lieutenant Farrell. Estimate came out from the county as $920,030 or $30. $920,030. And that's up 66,000 roughly to cover that lieutenant's position. The DPW director truck has been sold for $30,000. We are delegated commercial plan review and inspection with Brian's credentials for plan review on the building and HVAC and fire suppression and fire alarms with Kevin Bierce's credentials. Also, the electrical delegation was updated again. Now, the only portion not delegated to the village is plumbing. Richard Young Building had a water heater replacement and a air conditioner replaced. Sewer connections were completed for Christine Cole and Amanda Hagman, which will finalize our court proceedings with Amanda Hagman. We met with the contractor awarding that was awarded the bid for the baseball field and walked through a timeline and
making sure that the area was what they expected it to be. I met with a septic contractor on possibility of flushing toilets in LCP with, we'll discuss further in the meeting. Soil tests in LCP will be done actually Friday, and our preliminary equalized value went up 6%. Baseball club agreed to donating the 40,000 toward the new LCP baseball field. They're waiting for a contract. I need to write that up. Hope that to be done in August. Place the rewritten crack fill documents out for bid, and we'll be discussing that also in the meeting. Following the next village board meeting, I'd like to set up a workshop on budget. We'll review the budget timeline and future meeting employee compensation and review DPW park requests for capital budget. In July, the clerk department finalized licensing, completed annual reports due to DOR and for alcohol. The deputy attended the first year of the Clerks Institute and the County Clerks Educational luncheon. Attended legal webinar. The clerk attended legal webinar to review the model alcohol beverage license ordinance to incorporate Act 73, which will bring forward with codification. She worked with the administrator on that dog damage claim and our pending residency board lawsuit. Worked on all aspects of August election prep and actually started the November election prep. The highway division finished asphalting a patch they did on Mary Hill, Longview and Mountain Shadows, ditching and restoration work, Glen Ridge, Ford T intersection removal and restoration, scraped shoulders down on Meadowwood Lane and Kettle Cove Lane. They painted stop bars and railroad crossing, pedestrian crossings, and the book line crossing. DPW director spending more time with Cole, our new employee, teaching them more of the equipment, set up speed boxes to record data. Got quotes on other sets of speed boxes and pedestrian crossing signals. He spoke with Mitch, and they wrote the crack fill and flex patch bid. Shot numbers for ditching, worked on equipment quotes for this year's capital budget, and coordinated trucking loads from the milling work to be done. It's going to be delivered to the compost site, which actually saved the village money instead of us purchasing stone. We actually came up with this idea of us using the millings from roads, so that was a nice savings for us. The Parks Department standard summer operations and maintenance has been done. Baseball diamond meeting with contractor and administrator, tree and brush clearing along trails. Equipment repairs, the John Deere mower went in for repairs to repair the AC, and the mower wouldn't engage. For fire, there were 2 fire calls, 46 medical, 16 ALS intercepts, 0 inter-facilities, 8 vehicle accidents. We received mutual aid 5 times, gave mutual aid 29 times. And I apologize, I didn't get the sheriff's numbers.
Any questions for Kathy?
I'm just curious on that, the cost for the lieutenant sheriff of 66%, a lot.
And that's a portion of what it was. They have their normal increase.
Yeah.
For the fire protection services, but the majority increase was due to the additional lieutenant. Because we haven't paid for the lieutenant before.
But don't they have to ask us? Like,
That's,
they can't just add it in.
well, they asked, I'm bringing it forward, we'll see if that could be something we could pay.
Because we used to have, it was a lieutenant position, then it turned into a captain position.
Right, and now we're using the lieutenant, but we're not paying.
Well, if that is discussion.
And we can discuss that at the workshop after the next meeting, when we start talking about, staffing.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Kathy. We have the treasurer quarterly report.
Okay, I'll start off with a couple of general updates before moving on to the financials. So I completed my year 3 Treasurers Institute in July. And then I applied for the municipal treasurer certification directly following. I'm a member of the Fall Treasurer Virtual Conference Committee, which is next month. And I started prep work with the committee. We're brainstorming class offerings. There'll be a new versus advanced treasurer track. Tax recap. So we've received the lotto credit, the school levy credit, and first dollar credit directly, which is new this year. So the DOR notified us that the village was eligible for direct distribution. The village board approved the change where we received the funds in March and July and dispersed to jurisdictions in April and August. We earn interest on those funds prior to the April and August settlements. And I'm still working through all the accounting changes regarding the tax journal entries in this whole new process as it affects 4 different months on our books. So speaking to now the finances, the treasurer reports are directly following the utility check register. I will speak to the summary page first. So as of the end of June, we've received 71% of our budgeted revenues. Upcoming revenues down below, approximately 3.5 million in aids. That is not including the Q2 quarry payment of 142,000. Notice the tax credits, as I mentioned, so that's the second line from the bottom, over $2 million we received in July. That is then due to the county tomorrow, and then the county settles with us next week. So then we receive them $1 million back. Therefore, the total revenue is net 2.5 million in upcoming revenues, as we only hold those tax credit monies directly for 1 month and earn interest revenue on that. The total expenditures account for 37% of the budget as of June 30th. If you include the capital we levied for, that's the sinking fund transfer, then we are at 47%. Upcoming debt payments are minimal, taking us through year end, approximately 47,000 listed there in interest. So moving on the next page, investments. Right in the middle of the page in bold, you have total investments over 12 million. And then I bolded April, May, and June, so you can see Q2 at 159,000, which is in line with Q2 of 2023, just $8,000 more. Let's see, I also listed history down at the bottom, so you can see a comparison. Just a quick market update in terms of rates. The Fed meeting took place July 31st, where rates remained unchanged. Fed inflation target is 2%. In June, CPI fell to 3%, which was the lowest it's been in over 3 years. Investment rates fluctuated by only a few basis points. So over the last 12 months, from 5.31% to 5.42%. Therefore, our interest income is steady and in line, as I mentioned. Analysts predict rate cuts in 2024, potentially by 25 basis points each. So we may end up under 5% at year end. Again, just predictions. Moving on then to the new graphs that I added for my Q2 presentation to further illustrate our investment portfolio with visuals here at mid-year. So that first pie chart compares percentages, LGIP holding the majority of the funds at 51%. And then I broke out the money market between our primary bank accounts. The second chart, I combined our primaries just to compare between LGIP and the money market funds as a dollar comparison. The third chart, I broke LGIP down further, so you can see those sub accounts that we have, which make up the 51%. Just to note that LGIP Quarry, those are the land and stone payments. And then the blue bar graph illustrates dollars, so that reflects that if you look at the investment summary, exactly, I just reflected it and tied it out, so you can see general, impact fees, all of the different sub accounts and the money markets and the CDs. So as I've mentioned before in my other presentations over the past year, CD rates are lower than money market and LGIP at this time. We're not heavily invested in CDs at the moment, but as rates decrease, that strategy can change, and I'm able to secure a promotional CD within days with our primary bank accounts. I've also been conservatively adding funds at the time of renewals. So the final graph here is just a snapshot of where our top funds are positioned. A couple call outs. Compost is only a tiny little line. It is in the black finally, after site relocation. So we're at about positive 4,000 on the balance sheet as of August. And then the one fund in the red is the TID, due to that self-funded loan that's on the balance sheet as of 2023 year end, where the TID owes the general fund. Following are those detailed reports, as always, where those line items make up the summary. So if you have any questions after review, I'm happy to dig into any of those for you. Otherwise, thank you for your time. Are there any questions now?
Can you look from the board? Well, and
No, but I love the graphs.
Mark?
No.
Becky? Not either. Thank you. Item 9 is utility district quarterly report. How you doing, Mike?
Thank you. Your report in your packet reflects the revenues are pretty much corresponding proportionate to what we had expected in budget. This is particularly true because most of our revenue is a fixed base revenue. The revenue that is variable is for the commercial account, and year to date, the commercial account volume is actually less than the prior year. However, the volume on the 3 lift stations, which dictate the major flow, which we build, Willow Springs, Plainview, Janine, we have an abnormality. We've had an abnormality in Janine. When we researched it, we turned out that there was a problem with the meter. But right now we have a abnormality at Plainview, and that the Plainview consumption is up about 46%, but the power consumption at the Plainview pump is flat, which is inconsistent. So we're investigating as to why we have that inconsistency. And that is probably the big one of the biggest reasons why right now expenses are a little more than what we were expecting during the year. The other is an unplanned item, which is we're being billed for infiltration into the Bannon interceptor. It was determined by Sussex to start billing for infiltration into the interceptor. We take a proportionate share, but the amount of it is so far is 3,668,000 gallons, so it's a pretty significant item. And that is going to continue going forward until the Bannon interceptor is corrected.
So this could be anywhere along the land interceptor.
Right, but they're proportionate, they're based on the flow between Menominee Falls land and Sussex.
Because I know Lannon had a big infiltration happening for a while. Right on Main Street. So is that part of this, or is it being tracked at the different lift stations?
They're trying to put meters in. We had a meeting last week and they're trying to put meters in. We don't have any meters in Business Park East yet. So we were supposed to have a meter in so then they could
We're
meter
using the
what we
water.
were doing, see if we have any water going in or out, excess water that is beyond each building's meters. So, they're going to try, sections of it and drop temporary meters in to see where the flow is changing. So they're in the process of working on trying to find out exactly where it's coming from, but they have not found it yet. So
So what will happen once they do find it?
then we will see what the repair, they'll talk about what the repair is, and then our portion will be a portion to us. If it happens to be a repair that is not something that was done by one of the communities, contractors.
So if the interceptor problem is like in the Lannon portion, if there's a break there and this has been surging, yeah, I'm just hypothetically speaking here. I mean, it could be honest too, but are we always are gonna pay a proportionate of that, or is that those pipes are Lannon's and like these are ours? I mean, how does this all work? It's been a long time since I've been to a TAC
Yeah.
meeting.
I'm trying to remember from the tech meeting now, I think, if the issue, we talked about possibly, Menominee Falls. Possibility, and they said Menominee Falls would fix it, but we would all gain by that fix, but they would gain the most because they're paying the most in the overall cost. Because our portion of the excess amount that's going in, the INI is 18%, and the rest of it is Sussex and Menominee Falls. So they're all in agreement that we need to find it because, Sussex is taking a big brunt of the cost of that INI as well, and so,
I don't blame them for billing people.
but,
Couldn't know where it's.
right.
The other item that significant on the report is that repair and maintenance are greater than 50% of the budget, and that is primarily due to the fact that we do the largest expenditure, which is the grinder pump inspection during the first and second quarters. So other than that, there isn't a lot of differences in the budget. As far as operating costs at the end of June, our cash reserve that's unrestricted is $270,000. So it's in good shape. Any questions?
Mike, you, Paula?
No.
No? Becky?
No.
Thank you, Mike. Item 10, Plan Commission recommendation. We have discussion and necessary action regarding request by James Heinrich's Hometown Storage Solutions to rezone the vacant parcel on State Road 164, known as LSBT 0161.999.024 from the A5 Mini Farm District to the B3 General Business District.
So at the plan commission meeting, it was unanimous to deny this rezone. As in a discussion that happened earlier on another parcel in that same area that wanted to go to B3, the commission had found that the B3 was not a good fit for that small area. And so they kept this property the same, so it was a denial. So we're asking for you to approve the recommendation made by the plan commission to deny the hometown storage solution request for rezone.
Any questions, comments, or is there a motion? Make the motion to deny the rezone from the A5 mini farm district to the B3 general business district for tax LSBT 0161.999.024. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 11, unfinished business. We have a discussion necessary action on the June 2024 track bill / flex patch bids, which was tabled from July 10th, 2024. We have recommendation to deny those as we're bringing it up a little later on here in the night.
Make a motion to deny the responses, on the bid request number 914973.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Paula, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item 12, new business, A, discussion necessary action to award the August 2024 crack fill and flex patch bids.
Right, so in your package, you have a bid from Farner. They were the only ones that bid on this round of bidding for this crack fill and flex patch. Their number came in exactly the same as what it was. They didn't increase it for the second bid. So we're asking for motion to award that project to Farner in the amount of $99,123. I did speak to Bill from Farner, and they will move things around to try to get us in right away, because they know that we've got Scott coming into once they flex patched and crack fill. Scott Construction is gonna come in and do the seal coat. So they understand that, and they will move their schedule around to try to get us in.
Questions or comments? Your motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to award project number 9236071, the 2024 crack fill project to Farners in the amount not to exceed $99,123.
Is there a second?
Second.
Newman? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item B, presentation, discussion, and necessary action regarding Eller sewer rate study. Hey, John.
Good evening, John from Millers. Thanks for having us on this evening. We were in front of the Public Works and Utility Committee in July to present the results of a long-range cash flow analysis for the sewer utility, and really talk through options for the upcoming project within the village of Sussex in terms of upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. So we had a good discussion with the committee last month, and really a recommendation onto the board. So I'll kind of walk through just the highlights of the presentation, but in your packets, you've got a PowerPoint, and then there's tables. I won't walk through all the tables, but happy to answer questions if you have them. In terms of the PowerPoint, I will do my best to give you all the high level overview without going over anything. I sure do. I got a bunch of copies.
I've got it up on the screen too.
I can take that. Okay.
Decide my.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
I'm gonna leave her out of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
might as well hand them out. Okay, so, if you look at the, page 3, in terms of just the historical rate performance, so what we like to start off with when we look at utilities is just from a financial standpoint, where have they been relative to the revenue requirements of the utility? So utility is an enterprise fund of the village, and enterprise funds are a little bit different than, say, the general fund, in that they are meant to really be self-sustaining in nature and operate a little bit more like a business. We all know that utilities are very capital intensive. They've got expenses. You're talking about, I&I and that type of work, and that's very common within sanitary sewer utilities. Projects ebb and flow in terms of their need and their costs. So what we'd like to see is that the user rates that are supporting the utility are sufficient to be able to meet the revenue requirements. So in this case, the utility has no debt associated with it. So really your primary expense is the annual operating and maintenance expenses. And on this chart, kind of going from left to right, just looking back at past audit years, the annual operating and maintenance expenses in orange, and bars in orange, And then in green, to the extent that the utility has had capital expenses, those expenses have been paid for with cash on hand available within the utility. So the purple line going across it is the actual revenue requirement. So historically, there's been some other revenue besides user rates, primarily a tax that's now gone away, but that has helped offset the amount of revenue that needs to be generated from user rates as well as interest income, late fees, those types of items. So the blue line is the amount of revenue that is generated or has been generated annually from user rates out through the current budget year. So what we like to see is exactly what this chart is showing, and that the blue line is above our purple line in terms of our revenue requirement. What it tells us is that the utility is in a good position. You're right about, just a little bit above break even. So I think you can feel really good about, from a ratepayer standpoint, that the utility is in a mode that your user rates are not, on the flip side, too high, where you're generating, mountains of cash and you really don't have any projects to be able to do that with. You're really right about where you should be. So that's a good thing. I would say that most of the time, when we get brought into a rate study, it's not because things are going really well. So it's nice to be able to come and talk to a board about a positive situation in terms of where a utility is. So kudos to you. If you look at really the next page, one of the things that we look at within the context of utility, because really when we start talking about capital planning, probably the biggest question that we get within capital planning is, if we have a project that's upcoming, should we use cash or should we debt finance that project? And sometimes it's not should we, it's what do we have to do in terms of the nature of the project. Again, utility projects, and particularly, when you talk about, say, Sussex, for example, and its wastewater treatment facility, that wastewater treatment facility is probably one of the largest, if not the largest single asset that the village has in service. And obviously, Lisbon has a piece of that in terms of capacity, as does a few other municipalities. So those items, when they do come about for upgrade, in most cases, substantial upgrade, you're talking about debt financing those assets because you don't have that amount of cash laying around and able to deploy for a project of that nature. So to help answer the question really of the hour in terms of the estimated share of Sussex's future wastewater treatment plant upgrade, we look at your existing reserves, which are restricted and unrestricted in nature. The restricted reserves primarily consist of an equipment replacement fund, which a lot of sewer utilities have. It's great, it's good, best management practice. It's a requirement for state clean water fund loan financing. In terms of having money set aside to replace mechanical assets with less than a 20-year lifespan is generally what that's used for. When we look at total cash in hand, what we like to see is that utilities have at least 6 months of operating and maintenance expenses set aside and 1 year's worth of debt service payment. So in your case, it's really just at least 6 months of operating expenses. And the way to kind of think about that in, I think, today's environment is if you were unable to collect utility bills for whatever reason, and I think the most common thing you think of with that is some form of cyber attack, or your system goes down for a period of time, you're not able to collect utility bills, you at least have the peace of mind factor that you got at least half a year's worth of O&M expenses set aside in case. The other thing would be if you have some sort of emergency, you need access to cash, you've got that available. So, if we're below that line, we're really talking about any future capital expense going out and debt financing that. If you're above that line, we're talking about possibly using cash as the ability to pay for that project. In this case, I think you really have done a great job in terms of planning for future upgrades within the wastewater treatment facility and having reserves available as a set aside for when this project comes up. So you are well ahead of where you minimally need to be, and that is a minimum benchmark standard. Okay. If you look at the next page, page 5, we looked at two different options and we presented this to the utility, Public Works and Utility Committee last month in terms of the debt finance through the state's Clean Water Fund program, or if Sussex went out and issued that, do we take out a share of that, similar to what you did many years ago when the last major upgrade was done, where you have a portion of the Clean Water Fund loan that Sussex took out assignable to the town now village. Or do we go up, do we say, okay, the estimated share for the village of Lisbon right now is about 640,000. Do we use our reserves, write a check and go about our merry way, and Sussex does the project, they have no debt service, we'll deplete a fair amount of reserves, but can we do that? When we looked at the cash flow and the next page in terms of recommendation, we looked at both cash flows for both options and kind of minimum recommended cash on hand if we were to go ahead and use cash versus pay debt. The advantage, obviously, of issuing debt is you're preserving your existing cash, which right now is actually earning money at real interest rates. I realize that they're starting to come back down, but you know, it's better than it was a few years ago. The loan program through the state is a low interest loan program. It's specifically designed for projects like what Sussex is doing. I think what we talked about last month is that Sussex is actually preliminarily planning on cash financing their portion, which means if the village would need to debt finance it, likely you'd have to do that separate from Sussex. Take out a loan, give Sussex the cash as the project, is done, and then pay your principal and interest through the utility district or through the utility over a period of time. The recommendation from the study from the committee was to use cash in 2025 or 26, whenever the project really comes to fruition. Doing that still leaves the utility in a safe position where you're not depleting your reserves below that 6-month minimum threshold. That, my understanding and hearing some of the dialogue from committee members is that was kind of the plan over the years, was to keep building a reserve to help fund this project when it came about. So I think it's an appropriate use of the funds. And then going forward, looking at doing really in the case of the study, recommending a 2% annual rate adjustment to that user rate over time, really to kind of keep up with inflationary increases. And even if you don't, to keep the utility in a position where you're still generating positive annual cash flow. And that's not meant to be the end all be all. I think this is really kind of the beginning of the discussion in terms of we have this tool set up and at your disposal. It maybe isn't something you have to come back and update every year, but we have a lot of municipalities that we work with around this time of year, going into the fall, where you're getting into budget time, we come back and update this annual cash flow and look at, okay, we said 2%, what's going on? Are there any capital projects that we're not aware of last time we updated this? Are there any one-time operating expenses that are abnormal coming up in the next year that we're not aware of? Or what is the situation? Do we need to go above 2%? Do we lay off of that for a little while? But steady annual rate increases, which I think has really been the past practice of the utility, is what is recommended in this analysis. So the cash flow on page 7, the reserve situation on page 8, all take into consideration those 2% annual rate increases, using cash to fund the village's portion of Sussex's upcoming project that you'd be responsible for. And then page 9 shows if you did keep up with that 2% increase, what does the user rates that are fixed in nature look like over time in terms of that quarterly bill, going from $155 a quarter to $158 and 25, $161, et cetera. And you can see that impact about $12.50 ish a quarter impact to the average user if you follow along with that. The flip side is, and I think where we see a lot of utilities, and again, when we get brought into a situation, it's usually not for great reasons. But the flip side is doing nothing, and I realize that has not been the past practice of the utility, and that's great. But doing nothing and sitting on no rate increases just puts you in a position where at some point you're going to have to do something much larger than 2% or inflationary type increase to your user rates. We see that commonly. And unfortunately, when you get into that situation, you talk about the past and say, you know, for many years, we haven't raised your utility rates. Most residents and business owners tend to forget that in the moment, because most people, to be quite honest, think about their utility bills in the context of their monthly budget. So to the extent you've got small inflationary increases, you're doing what you need to keep operating the utility, you can justify those increases in terms of their expense and the nature of what you're doing, the reserves are in a good position, and you're keeping the utility and customers happy. And it's a double-edged sword, because the expectancy from a budgetary standpoint for residents is the same thing utility needs as well. You need that expectancy in terms of revenue generation over time. You don't want to be at a razor thin margin going, you know, if something happens here, we just don't know what we're gonna do. So fingers crossed, hopefully nothing does. You know, you're in a good position. My message would be keep on with those inflationary increases. I think you're safe, and you know, the project costs change, Sussex goes out for bid, costs change, things happen, design changes, let's come back and talk about it. Yeah, that's what you have us. So. With that, I will turn it back over. I'm happy to answer any questions.
The 2% increase over time, is it smart to do a flat increase like that, or following CPI? Smarter move, or just kind of, who knows?
Well, again, I think it's something to come back and look at budget time. I mean, I think 2%, what you're seeing in the context of the cash flow is we're assuming your operating expenses are going up at about 3%. So, you know, you're kind of, you've got some positive, you know, income in your user rate base right now. So you're really just kind of keeping very status quo by doing a 2% annual increase in this type of analysis. But my message is come back and look at this, you know, as you go through your into your 2026 budget. You know, and look at that.
People that they like steady increases, they don't like the.
So at the committee level, we did talk about that, and you had a projection that like, I think it was 4% one.
Yeah, for a couple of years, and then it tailed off, and then, yeah.
And then it was absent for every other year for a while, so instead of doing the up and down game, we just picked the 2% as a level increase over time.
And just keep reviewing it over.
Yep.
If we have another couple of years like we had, that might not work, but.
Correct.
Right. I know it, yeah. So, but again, the nice thing is the framework is here. You can easily come back and update this. We've got, you know, us to help look, you know, over the shoulder of the utility and bounce ideas off of too if things come up. So I know one of the things that was also talked about at the utility committee level was, you know, really kind of coming up with a more robust capital improvement list over time, realizing that even though, you know, it's largely the collection system, even that still has expenses, capital expenses that are going to come up. So starting to get some of that stuff on paper is really good, because then we can start to analyze it in the context of this and say, should we cash finance, should we not? Let's, you know, from your directive, say, we want to cash finance these expenses, anything below a certain dollar or threshold, that's what we want to do. Help us design a plan around that to make it happen.
Thank you, Paula.
When's the last time we had a rate increase?
This year.
This year, there was.
Yeah,
Do you know how much that was?
I think it was about 4%.
I think $5.
$5.
$5.
And we, and the major reason for that was because once we became a village.
Yeah, they hit your.
Once we became a village, we no longer could put on the tax roll the $50 for everybody that's in the sewer district. So the ratepayers have to pay and cover those costs as well.
Any questions for you, Becky?
No.
Marketing.
I do have a request for consideration. I do have two motions if you go through.
Questions or comments, anything, or does somebody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation of the Public Works and Utility Committee to use the cash on hand for the 2025 wastewater treatment facility update. And also a motion to accept the recommendation of the Public Works and Utility Committee to increase the sewer rate yearly at an increase of 2% to replenish the cash on hand used for the wastewater treatment facility update.
Let's take the first one first. Is there a second on the first motion? So this would be the motion to use the cash on hand.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0, and then
Second motion stands as previous year.
is there a second?
You're comfortable with that number, Mark?
Oh, you need a second before we
Oh,
discuss.
sorry, I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion.
2% is good for you?
Yeah, we were, like we just
Yeah.
reiterated, 2% was our way to keep it level and equal for all the payers and not to confuse anybody when it comes into budgeting for them.
So this shows, up until 2033, would that continue after 2033, or that would be good? I mean, if all stays the same, it would.
We'll have to look at it.
Like we were gonna have a reanalysis multiple times in between there.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, one of the bigger variables is your interest income has gone up, as most, everyone has in terms of what you're earning. If interest rates come back down, we may need more than 2%, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So we'll have to take a look at this in the future.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's been a blessing and a curse.
It has,
We got lucky though.
yeah, you issued data at the right time,
Yeah, we got really lucky with a lot of with
Doing
how the
very-
economy went and everything, and
you're doing well.
so it's been very good for us. All right, well, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Have a good night.
Thank you,
Take
John.
care.
Item C, discussion and necessary action regarding solar speed and crosswalk signage.
Okay, so the next. For the next 4 items are all to kind of discuss the. Costs in ARPA, some possible ideas to use some ARPA funds. Also the so this one specifically is for signs. We are getting a lot of community, or a lot of our subdivisions and roads are complaining about speeding. And we have one set of signs, and our set of signs is our battery, not solar. So our guys have to go out periodically and change the batteries when we're collecting data. It doesn't, they do not allow us to gather the information from the signs. They're just really signs to kind of tell people they're going 35 when they're supposed to be going 25. Nick brought to me the idea of getting some signs. We spoke about possible ARPA funds. This has not been brought up at the Public Works and Utility Committee. This could be a and only because I thought it might be a ARPA fund idea. And so I'm not sure where the Public Works Committee would land on these. So the sign, as you can see, it just says what your speed is over the speed limit sign. These would be moves, they'd stay in one, on one road for some time, then they move to another road, so these wouldn't be permanent on a road. Kind of to get their attention that they're speeding. The second sign is a crossing sign. We had gotten a request specifically on Plainview. At Stone Family, the families that are trying to cross that Plainview would like to see some kind of a crossing sign because they're concerned about getting hit as they're trying to cross Plainview Road. I was, I brought up the idea of, I mean, Lake 5 is actually, I think we have more people crossing at Lake 5 to get to Community Park. And we also have, we have people driving down Lake 5 at a high rate of speed. And so, with the hill and such, I thought this might be another idea on putting a sign like this up in that area. So this was really just for discussion, to see if we wanted to, we could take action on it, but it was for discussion on, to see if we wanted to use ARPA money for this. And so, if we did the signs, so the walkway and the solar signs. So if we did 2 sets of the solar signs, it'd be $17,435. And it'd be $14,400 for 2 sets, one for Lake 5 and one for Plainview guys going down. For discussion.
So on the pedestrian crossing, so people press the button and then
The sign.
the sign,
Would start
These go back
flashing.
and forth.
but they're
Or they
flashing.
flash.
Yeah, they're flashing like this.
There's,
And this will require the car to stop if that thing is flashing. Or just a warning, because like, when you're driving through downtown Sussex, like you have to stop at the bug line.
it's the same thing.
It's the same idea.
If you look at
It's
the one
supposed
at
to
Silver
stop
Spring
now,
Road,
so.
Yeah,
Silver Spring has this exact sign. By where the bug line crosses, just down from the Napa. That beautiful Napa store, that's right.
Any thoughts, any discussion? Do you want me to bring it to do you think it's a worthwhile cause? Do you not want to spend ARPA money and we can consider it for 25 budget? If the committee thinks this is a wise idea, we're trying real hard to figure out a way to put some effort into our speeding concerns of our residents. This was one of the ways we thought we might be able to get some attention of some of the drivers that are driving through at a high rate of speed.
And I think the committee would definitely need to be the one to look at it to see if it's needed. What I don't want to do is, send it over there with the thought of an open checkbook. Like, we're just looking for a way to spend money, which we're not. It's just, like, is this needed? If it is, is this the proper use of the funds or something else? Mark, you have to say about that committee?
Yeah, I would definitely put it back to the committee to see what the need is. Also too, there's a lot more that goes into this than just buying the signs. There's cloud-based user management that comes at a fee. I don't readily see this one, but they are sometimes up to $2,500 depending on how many signs we have. Or they're per sign, actually, so, it's 500 after a year, so there's recurring costs to these. Also, you're gonna wanna buy extra batteries just because
The solar batteries go bad.
like it depends, like you're not gonna remount and mount a solar panel speed sign. It's labor intensive, it's hard. You have to drill posts at certain locations. They're more of fixed, like if you're gonna leave it up for a long range time, that's the kind of one to go to. The battery operated ones are meant to be portable, generally like a 10-day window, 10 to 14 day window.
Okay.
There's just a lot of different things to consider. I'm not familiar with, I don't know Treetop. I'm not familiar with them at all, but there definitely are other companies out there that deal with these products.
This is what was brought to me, so. I didn't look into them any farther.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely helpful. You know, leaving them in one spot for a long period of time desensitizes people to the effectiveness of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's something to consider.
The places on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also labor intensive depending on how many signs you actually get, you know. If you get the battery operated ones that aren't solar assisted, you have to have somebody go out every 10 days to replace the batteries. Or bring them back in and charge them, depending on how they fix the batteries inside.
All right, thank you.
Everybody good with that?
Mhm.
Becky, you're good with
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
You got that down.
Okay.
Mhm.
The new ballpark.
All right.
Item D, discussion necessary action regarding new server or relocation of server to the village hall.
All right, so as we work on our, fire EMS, we, determined that the best thing to do would be to bring the server into village hall. And as I mentioned in the request for consideration, our server is over 7 years old, it's approaching the end of life. Additionally, Microsoft will see support of Windows 10, which is what is on our server. And so we do need to upgrade to Windows 11. So I get two proposals for you, one to just the cost of just the server move, using the current server, moving it here to Village Hall. Or a quote on a new server, which is good for 30 days. The server, if we did the new server, they'd be able to keep us up while they're setting up the new server. And so then the transition, we won't be down for a real length of time. We either have to pay IT to come in, one click to come in off hours to do this transfer, or to have us down for some period of time, so. And that's not just the village hall, that would be DPW parks. Mainly. So I brought this to you, this, the cost of the replacement is $16,550.51. And the cost of moving the old one and then doing something next year would be, for this year would be $1,343.
Discussion, so we're gonna end up with a new server no matter what, just as we're doing it this year.
What windows are on the computers up here?
We have part of us are on Windows 11 and part of us are on 10. And when we bring some of the newer computers from the fire station over, some of them will have Windows 11 on them, and we can move them. We're hoping we have enough that we can complete the rest of this.
Okay.
But we, in the quote for the 16,000 does have
I see for the
DPW and parks,
Yeah.
for new ones. We just got two Windows 11 just recently because we had a computer go bad, and then we had to switch them.
So on the computers we have are not made to do the processing.
Right.
They're made to be, we have virtual terminals, is what they're called, so they basically log into the server does the work. There isn't much done on local log, yeah, and this is where we run into problems, because we have an interconnect connection here, and we have one at the fire department, either one of them go down. They're done, the village hall done.
So maybe we want to wait until we actually have to do it when we're forced to, because Microsoft is not supporting Windows 10 anymore. We want to do it now and kind of on our own time.
I would recommend getting a server and doing
I agree.
this now personally, so. The reason that server is even down at the fire station is because we went the cheap route. Many years way before. Becky and I would have been the only ones here at that time. But, we used to have a ton, there's a whole lot of technology got a lot better over time. There was thoughts behind the way things were. We used to have static IP addresses through a tunnel, and the fire department needed more computing power than we did for a long time, because we used to do it on the locals, and that all changed. It went to virtual machines, but the server was still there, and it just everything changed.
So you also mentioned in here that, moving the server to Village Hall, you can better manage the physical environment. Is there any retrofitting or electrical work or anything will needs to be done here? It's ready to roll.
We don't think so. We're gonna put it right in the room where the infrastructure comes in. That's where they thought would be the best spot. So they did not mention any additional, electrical or pulling of any wires of all right together as well.
Rob from One Click is on Zoom.
Oh,
Hey, Rob.
I don't think you're prepared to be doing any.
Yep, I'm here.
hey Rob, do you foresee any electrical or any infrastructure work that needs to be done here in moving the server?
We just need a dedicated outlet, and then you'll have a UPS unit, which basically gives you a lot more outlets on the battery backup.
Okay.
So as long as we can plug in there, and then we got to get a Cat6 wire ran over to the network. So I think the plan was to leave all the networking equipment where it was behind your desk.
That's correct.
Because if we moved it to where the server is, which is like the correct way to do it, so it's all in one spot, then you just have to reroute all of the Cat6 wires there.
Yeah.
Versus only bringing one wire over. And then we'll just use the extra switch at the fire department and put it on the rack.
Very good. Thank you.
Becky, are you in favor of moving or replacing?
We should replace it and be proactive.
Good feeling. Mark?
Yeah.
I guess I was just thinking, I mean, this is a relatively larger investment. Is this something we budgeted for 2024 or
We have not.
so? I guess one, did we budget for it for the entire replacement of it? Two, is the unit cost competitive? Or is this just what's provided by it? Like, we didn't go to any other source.
I did not
for
go to
that
any other
price.
source, no.
Needs to get a competitive bid, see if you save money on buying a server. One Click would have to do the installation though, do I understand that correctly?
They don't have to, but I mean, they're
Makes sense. To
a
know where we are.
tech company,
Makes sense to do it that way.
right? Yeah, I can tell you, so this Power Edge server that's on here,
Mhm.
so these are the ones we use at work. And I paid 12,000 for these.
So this is a good price.
Well, and this actually has larger, so our SSDs and ours are 1 gigabyte, they're not 2. We do run a RAID though, so we run a couple more. I'm assuming these are 2, Rob, these are all running tandem.
Yeah, it's all gonna be RAID 1, and they were the 2. I think they were the 2 terabyte. Cause now we're getting rid of some of the
Right.
VMs. You didn't need as much space.
How many hard drives are in there?
I'd have to look at the quote. I think there's 2 of them. I think
So
two terabytes. Yeah, two 2 terabyte SSDs.
I have 4.
Oh, you have 4 on there?
I know on my system at work, my 550 4.
Yeah, it really depends on what the size of them is, because you could get the same total size out of 4 4 500s as you would.
Which I have the same,
2 ones.
essentially the same size, because 4 hard drives actually act as 2, it writes the 2 hard drives at the same time.
Yeah, basically the number of physical hard drives divided by 2. And then if
So-
one fails, the other picks up instantly.
So, but. Yeah, I'm a little bit more expensive than what this is, but. Yeah, I don't
And
know.
these are also the NVMe solid states. They're not like, they don't look like hard drives. They look more like a video card.
Yeah,
They're the lot faster ones. Now the actual MSRP on the server is over like 27.
and I just say that in relation to. I mean, we buy as a national company and I'm at 12 grand and. So but I don't know what somebody else would be. I mean, Point has historically given us. Pretty good pricing on equipment, because that's not where that's a one-time deal where the service is where.
And the specs on this are adequate, we're not gonna grow out of this anytime soon.
The only thing you need to upgrade for is if we wanted to add more virtual machines. Because we only have that figured for the parks and DPW, which is only 3 computers. So unless you see more virtual users going at the parks or DPW, that would be plenty for what you guys need.
Yeah, so the deal with the fire department's not gonna have any bearing on that?
No.
No, okay.
That's why you don't need a way more expensive one, is because we're taking 15 virtual machines off of it. So that's how we can get away with the smaller one.
Is there any way to get those other units off virtual?
Yeah, it's a lot more expensive. To hook all your domains together. And then we'd have to put a server at each one, each building. And then basically just connect them all together like that.
I don't know, the extra.
Which down the road, this computer, you can still do that with this. You just have to still buy the other 2 servers, but.
Yeah. I mean, is that transitional? Transitional price for the 1343? Is that a reduced price because we're doing the $16,550 server project?
No, we don't have to do that, that 13.
No,
Is.
it's not really that hard to move the old one over and put it in here. But that unit is end of life next year, so. You either do it this year or early next year. And if we do it early next year, there's going to be more downtime.
Do you have? I mean, what is more downtime in as far as hours?
It'll be offline longer. Like let's say the server you have now fails, and we don't have this one ordered. You got a week or 2 for shipping. So I mean, you definitely don't want to wait till it fails.
We went down that road, it's not that good.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to wait till it fails. And this one they can keep working off of while we get most of the work done in the background. So we're setting them up side by side.
We basically, you're saving the 13. Well, and who knows what the price would be next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're not saving the 1,300.
If we do it this way, you're just spending the 16,550. If you do it next year, you're gonna spend the 13,343 and then whatever the server costs next year, which I'm sure won't be lower than the 16,550. It might be, I mean, who knows, that 16,550, I guess would be a little less, but you don't have to do any that you already have done the cabling and things there, but still. I definitely don't want to have to do hard drives again. That was a weekend of health.
Is there any need to redo cabling in the future?
At this town hall, I mean, not really. I mean, it's more for looks at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, the wires are all working. It's not pretty how it is, but
We moved the
it's
wires,
functioning and
my fault.
My only reason for asking was if we have upcoming projects, does that tie in at all? But
if you were gonna be there forever, it would be worth it. But if you're not, there's no point.
Any other questions from the?
I have it down. I have the motion to use ARPA funds for this.
Does anyone wish to make a motion on this?
I will make a motion to approve the use of ARPA funds to purchase a new server, move the server to Village Hall with an amount not to exceed $16,550. $0.61.
Is there a second?
Awesome.
Second by Becky. Becky wants that server.
That's right.
So All right, motions are made and seconded. Any final discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Item E, discussion only regarding precast bathrooms and sewer for LCP.
All right,
Community
so-
Park.
So, I met, as I mentioned before, I met with the sewer installer, at Lisbon Community Park. We walked through placing, bathrooms in the park. We actually started with, what we could possibly do with our pit toilets, and, he believes we could change those, pit toilets into 2 bathrooms, flushable toilets with a very small leach bed to the west of it, instead of making a real large leach bed. We had, the pit toilets have, 2 basin or tanks underneath them, each bathroom, and they have, they hold 1,950 gallons each. And we hadn't had them cleaned out for like 5 years, and we just had them cleaned out, and together they only brought in, they only pulled out 1,100 gallons over 5 years, and there's no way to leach. This actually just stays in the tanks. But we all know that people don't run to a pit toilet before they run home if they're close by, so. We expect more people to use the bathrooms. So I started the getting the talking going and getting an idea of what we could possibly do. Because during the parks meeting, we had someone that stated we couldn't put the baseball diamond where we wanted it because that's where the septic field would need to be. And so I needed to verify that. See if we could have septic in other locations. Across the street where the baseball diamond is, we could put bathrooms in that location with a leach bed just for that bathroom by itself. I do have a person coming to do soil borings to see if we can just do leach beds and not mound system. We do. After talking to Mike and what's been there, they believe it sounds like we'd be able to do leach beds, which would make a difference. We had to gather the information on the number of people that we expect to see in so much time to see what the size would be. So I'm meeting the gentleman that's going to be doing the soil borings on Friday at 1:30. That cost is $1,500. So I'm moving forward on that. But the idea of putting in bathrooms, I've heard this discussion since I was here. John whispered that in my ear during my interviewing process. And so one of the things I thought we could take a look at were these flushable toilets that can be put in place. I didn't really realize that you could just drop in a precast building like that until Hamilton School did that at their tennis courts. So that's what they use by their tennis courts in that area where their baseball and their tennis is over on that corner, is they use this bathroom, two bathrooms, and they with a closet in between, would only be open during the winter, the summer months, or I should say, would be closed during the winter months. This is just one idea of what they could look like. The cost of these are $85,000 installed.
So
we
this
would
uses
have-
the leach bed?
What?
This uses the leach bed?
This would use the leach bed. Yeah. So we'd be looking at flushable toilets possibly in 2 areas in Lisbon. Community Park, well, we'd have a better idea after the soil borings, but that's something that. Like,
Where are these soil borings happening?
they're gonna
And how
be,
did we determine where?
well, they're looking at close to the pit. Close to the pit toilet up on the top. So you've got your map here. And so. Okay, so the baseball diamond is here. And so the pit toilet is right here. And so he thinks we can get the amount of bleach right here, so it doesn't really affect. Anything, any slopes or anything, just in this back area. And that would service that pit, what right now is our pit toilet, there'd be enough space, is what he believes in that area. Then the other area would be over across by the baseball diamond. So you could put, toilets, concession, whatever you decide in the future. You could do a leach bed here with bathrooms. Obviously, we don't do the leach bed unless you're ready to do bathrooms, but so soil borings, they'll be good for us to know what our soil quality is and will be used for making to help us make decisions in the future.
Discussion?
What I know is parks people have talked about, like Kathy's point, getting toilets up there for a long time. I think everybody agrees that that would be a good thing to do up there. Especially with the baseball field going up there. I love the idea of the flushable toilet, honestly.
They're both flushables.
Yeah.
So we'd end up at this side of the park, you'd end up with 4 bathrooms. So one would be close to the rental area that we rent the most, that big rental area up there, and the other one would be closer to the baseball diamond, the volleyball, and the play area, the playground. Now, there's not, once they do the soil borings, there's nothing to be said that we have to do both. We talked about, at first, he thought we could just do one bleach bed bore underneath the road. And for the pit toilets to become flushable toilets, and just bore that into the leach bed on the other side of the road. But because it doesn't take much space for such a small leach bed, he thought it might be cost effective to just do it up there. If it's not, he would suggest to go the other way as well.
Do we have water in both of these locations?
Yes.
Has the park committee put together any kind of plan for this park? The reason I ask that is, there's a determination on where the baseball field is going. I'm not putting you on the spot, but
It's okay.
is there any kind of committee thought that's been put into where strategically we're gonna be placing things?
Not all together.
Baseball diamond has to be on the flattest spot. We took the other baseball diamond that was there, the kind of makeshift one that was there, down and away for this new baseball diamond to fit in that area. But this is the flattest area that we have that doesn't interfere with the walking paths. Or the hill, the sledding hill.
I mean, I guess. I hate to just see money thrown here and there, and then there's, the park just isn't really cohesive to anything. I don't know, I guess. I was just using the park equipment the other day, it's aging end of life.
Great.
there's a lot of renovation that needs to be done over in that area.
Do you not agree that bathrooms are important?
I do, but I just because their pit toilets are there doesn't mean that's the best spot for it. I mean, if we're focusing on our Lisbon Fest being down at the bottom of the hill, nobody's gonna walk up the hill and go use the toilets up there. So, I mean, essentially, we render that useless to that event. You know, it's even a far walk even for the Easter egg extravaganza. I just don't know that that's a good
Best
spot.
placement? Do you have another placement? I mean, because the soil borer can go out and do French.
Well, I guess that's before we even spend money on soil boring, why don't we identify a plan for the park and get input on where people want stuff. I mean, we have a lot of land, but if we start piecemealing stuff together over time, it's just gonna be a disorganized park.
It's gonna take some time, because we're talking about doing a survey out to the residents of Lisbon right now, so, and honestly, it's probably gonna be a few months at least before a cohesive plan comes together for that.
And some people that came and talked about potential pickleball courts, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
Those things are just packed,
Oh, all the time,
just nonstop packed.
you know, is the community park the spot for that? I don't, you know, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I mean, but it's like all we're talking about doing is already there.
Mhm.
So, you know, do we spread the wealth around a little bit, or, you know, spread the,
And I will stand by to make a park more viable and bring people to it. You need to have diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, a ball diamond is that. I think pickleball courts could be that. You can't just be a park set for one demographic of people. You know, walkers come in, that's our walking park. That's, you know, it's great. It's awesome. People love it, but we also have 10,000 more residents in the village that need to have a place they can go and do things they love too.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, I mean, things have really changed in the last 5. I mean, nobody knew pickleball 5. I mean, people knew pickleball, but it's not like it is now. I mean, it's crazy. And it ain't going away.
I'm all for it, yeah, we just. A
Got my
lot,
racket coming tomorrow.
I mean,
no, I hear what you're saying, I agree with what you're saying.
I guess you look at the park and everything is front loaded on the front end. You know, the whole eastern half of the park, we restrict because. I don't know, for no good reason, other than they tell you not to drive back there. But there's really not gonna be a lot of parking for the ball diamond unless we put a parking lot up there. There's a small parking lot to the southwest of the pit toilets, but it's. I'd like to see a plan. I think just throwing money at it is not a long-term solution for what this park could potentially be used for.
No, I agree, but I think part of the long-term plan is gonna be toilets for sure.
No, I agree. I mean, we've gotten this far on the pit toilets. Obviously, yes, people are less inclined to use pit toilets over flushables. And probably feel the same way about portables, but. They've been working so far. Why not use them to put together a plan and
Yeah, that,
if we're putting in this expensive ball diamond. Anybody who runs a tournament there or wants to use it for a tournament isn't just gonna use one field. They want multiple fields, you know. Should we talk about lighting? Should we talk about a concession stand with flushables?
Well, that's one thing I was,
A multi-use purpose. I'm not saying just build a concession stand with flushable toilets for a ball diamond. I don't think that's the right answer. But something that can be used by cross-country skiers in the winter or all of our community events that we could have.
using a concession stand they can sell for a community fest. With toilets attached, running water, heats, you know, then you could potentially have bathrooms with heat over winter.
Yes.
This is something, so this was brought up a long time ago. Didier was here and we had talked about it. It was brought up with toilets. And they came in, it was a cinder block building, I mean, basically what we have here. And the dollar amount that came pre-COVID was like $385,000. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. We're gonna put something that can fit in here with a leach bed for almost $400,000. I'm like, we need to talk about something. At that point, you stick an extra 200 and you get a usable building out of it instead of just a eyesore with toilets in it. But
That's fine.
COVID happened,
What I
didn't
was trying to do was
Right.
get something in there, so then we didn't have to use the toilets. If you want, and I had brought to the, Parks Committee early on about doing something with the concession stand, a few different, views of different park, pavilions that we've had in the past. We kind of got stalled on it. And I guess my concern is, are you gonna be still discussing putting toilets in 2028?
well, that's the thing, we need to.
We
we need
will,
to have
we will be if you don't have a plan for it.
At one point you had mentioned too, that there would be possibly some of our newer businesses who might wanna contribute to building something down there. Is that still on the table, or is there any thought to that?
It's not.
I'm gonna tell you why. And this is gonna be a little harsh. I'm a business owner. I donate to I sponsored Spooky Sussex this year because I'm maybe the village president. But I own a business, and when you put money into something, you expect a return on investment. Sussex brings thousands and thousands of people, besides the fact one of my buildings is in Sussex. It brings thousands and thousands. I get a return on investment on it. People look at this, they remember the name, they come in. We have how many people? Maybe 1,000
Yeah.
in our busiest event in a park that not a lot of people know is there. You're gonna have a hard time getting community businesses to donate to something when half of them don't even know what it is. And this is why, I mean, to Mark's point too, as far as having a plan to improve it, this is going to be our destination park. We need to make it a destination.
And it's gonna come with it's gonna come with a price tag.
It does, and that's what has to be decided, because Sussex does parks really, really well. They do. Their rec department is amazing. Their community outreach is amazing. I mean, we could learn from them in a lot of different areas on that. And we haven't, I mean, we've been focused on incorporation, we've been focused on surviving for the last 20 years. It's not like we haven't been busy. But if we're gonna take that next step, it will take an investment. One thing I was at the park committee meeting with these surveys that were potentially gonna go out. One thing I would recommend with that is, I don't like the hanging out at the park because you don't know if you're heading into a village resident or not. I believe if village residents are paying for this, village residents decide, not Burton or anyone else. I mean, I love Burton or something, but we're paying for it, our residents decide.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at some of our other parks, like, I would consider this a neighborhood park. Small but neighborhood, Stone Family is a neighborhood park. Stony Hallquist is a neighborhood park. I would see this as the potential to be more than a neighborhood park and more of a collective community park. And I think we should have a specific focus on what it's gonna be. And maybe it is what it is, and maybe this isn't the right space for it, but without a plan to consider, we're just throwing darts in the dark.
Okay. Right.
But is it all, I mean, everybody agrees we need bathrooms at this park.
Yeah.
And we need them before our grandkids are sitting on these boards making these decisions.
Yes. I would think
It
so.
needs to happen. I mean, this can't be something that's gonna take 2 years to figure this out. I mean, even if it's just one toilet in an area that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, or a plan too could be, we can use portables and just put more money into frequently servicing them and.
I mean, the pit toilets are disgusting. I
Yeah,
don't know that. I'm a guy, it's a little different than a girl having to go use these things. It just is.
yeah, I mean, but there's nice portables that you can have a weekly contract to have them serviced.
We do that now,
You know,
our other parks.
and. It is what it is, but it's not meant to be your home bathroom. But if we have larger events, it should be on the same quality.
Yeah, we need something decent for that.
I mean, and maybe the plan is a couple of these around the park. Without a plan, we're just gonna be waiting for our grandkids to put in. But it's-
You know, you would add it to the next park committee meeting discussion on pickleball.
I don't think we specifically said pickleball, but it would be part of the plan,
Survey.
right? That would be part of the plan. Discussion about the plan.
I mean, we're coming up on budgeting season. Is it worth having a professional planner come in and evaluate the use of this park and?
Yeah.
How much does that cost?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a scope of service that you can define, but, they're gonna be the professionals to say if this park is viable to expand into this, or you're throwing bad money at this, don't invest in this. Look for a different parcel.
There's a lot of land up there. There's a lot of room to do stuff.
It is, but I mean, I don't know if there's wetland up there. I mean, there's aerial obstructions with the power poles.
Easements, yeah.
There's terrain, there's the bug
Want to
line,
get to that?
so, I mean, there are professional park planners that.
The other thing people,
Parks, Jenna,
What's that?
on Parks, it should be.
Yeah.
I agree, I mean, I think. When we look at things, we tend to look at things the way we've always done them, where we don't look beyond. And we've done it cheap at times, said it again, Becky,
Mhm.
but looking, having someone else take a look at things, now, we don't need a fourplex, we don't need all these other crazy things, but the other end of it is. Kathy's days are numbered. And getting bigger projects on Kathy at this point in time is gonna be, I mean, you can essentially, you get to the point now where you're gonna start things and you aren't gonna be able to finish them because. I
Well,
mean,
but Richard's gonna keep.
we're going into the last quarter of. Kathy's career.
Yeah.
And some of the board members are gonna be different next year too.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and those professional park planners. Part of their scope of service may be a community engagement survey that'll just tell you all the answers of what the community wants. And
Sounds expensive, but let's look into it.
yeah, I mean, it can be. There's obviously a scale of economy and
it's expensive, but it's expensive to do the wrong thing.
it is, yeah, I mean. I think we all thought it was crazy for 300,000+ for a flushing facility for.
Yeah.
What we first heard prior to COVID. Can't even imagine what that would be now.
That was crazy,
How big, right?
tiny. It was tiny, it was probably slightly bigger than this. With a septic field, I mean, it was my jaw hit the floor. But I agree, we need flushing toilets. We're gonna say it,
My problem is that you're gonna do all this, and then you're gonna get a board that does not wanna spend the money. And you're gonna be right back where we've been for the last 30 years.
Then the people need to get on board. I mean. But I,
Well, so do we just throw our hands up and say, well, forget it then?
oh, I
Well,
think
Do
it's-
anything?
well, I was trying to say that it's like, the speed, time is of the essence to look at this. Cause the new board's gonna come in and it's not, if it makes sense, it makes sense, if it doesn't, it doesn't, but you just wanna. We've been around, we've heard the complaints, a new board isn't gonna have that knowledge necessarily.
Sure.
And we
Right.
know this has been a thing that has been pushed over and over and over and over again, I mean, the Parks Committee has brought it up, it's been brought up by residents, this is something people want. They don't wanna spend $500,000 on it, but
I mean, that's one question. Do you want to, you want all this stuff or you willing to pay for it?
I mean, there's a lot of things that the next board's gonna have to address, like 5 Road is gonna be another one of them. I mean, that's a dangerous road that needs to be addressed. That's gonna be expensive. But
I think when we look at creative strategies, I'll look at Stone Family, for instance, how many years has that park been there? And then all of a sudden we find a cooperative partnership with the development on our border in Sussex, and now we have a cost split between the two of us, and I mean. Hands down, I'm sure that on a daily usage, that's probably our busiest neighborhood park.
Yeah.
I mean, it's filled every evening,
Every time I go by, there's people.
and you got people from Sussex in the new subdivision, you got. Families coming out of our 3 adjacent subdivisions, and actually, there's a lot of people that drive there, believe it or not. That's why girl from Menominee Falls the other day that was doing a scavenger hunt for Sussex, and she somehow thought that park was in Sussex. Yeah. You'd be surprised when people come.
All right, I will get something put together for first. We need to get that.
Item F, discussion necessary action regarding update on ARPA funds and obligations.
Okay, so, it's something that I've mentioned ARPA through the discussion today. And I wanted to update you on where we're at. So our worksheet is on second page. We had put aside for the baseball diamond, a match for, we had Selva that was looking at putting, changing our baseball diamond to make it larger and allow for both softball and baseball to be used there. And that has kind of, and we were gonna match the amount of money, 30,000, so we put that aside. My thoughts are that you might want to consider releasing that fund because we have not, they've been like a reorganization and Silva, and they have not spoken to us since that discussion. They have not put money forward. They've aren't sure if this is the right park anymore, so they're still trying to find their way. So I think we could release that 30,000 and put it back into our funds. We 4 months of the fire department part-time pay is about, I put in as an estimate of $100,000. And if we release the 30,000, we'd have $265,022.35. So tonight you approved the card readers, which was the $29,539.46. And that's the only thing that was approved, but that would make us get us updated on where ARPA is. Just a reminder, we need to continue paying our part-time FD members, but then we need to have under contract the rest of the money by the end of this year, either spent or by contract. So if we have a contract that says we're going to use this money to build the road or build something else, as long as that has been, it has to be under contract by the end of this year, and we have to spend it by 2026 at the latest. Or we have to give it back to the federal government.
Questions, comments? Budget time's coming, obviously, so we'll.
Yeah, so we're talking about all the different types of things for budget, so that was my update. Thanks for stopping.
The 30,000 with SLBA, there's gotta be somebody we can get a hold of, find out
I
what's
know
going
Mike's
on.
been kind of in contact with them, and they said that they're just not.
That's gonna need a heavier hand.
Okay. I'll give them a call. You wanna keep it in the thread?
I'm not saying that, I just think that needs to be a higher level discussion, probably.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, we approved the new server and moved to Village Hall too. You said there was only one that was approved. Yeah, okay.
We did do that, yeah, 60,000,
Yeah. Okay.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Item D, discussion with their action regarding ordinance 2024-07 regarding nicotine and delivery.
All right, so, brought this up at the June meeting, we had some, ordinance changes that needed to be, updated in our code, speaking to Attorney Schultz and Captain Panis, they directed me to the ones that needed to be changed to allow our code to address vaping regulations. What you see in front of you, ordinance 2024-07 is an ordinance clearly recreating chapter 5, section 10. And chapter 41, sections 125-27 of the code.
Discussion. Attorneys vetted this and everything's good.
Yeah, they're the ones that told me what to put, what to change.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-07, ordinance repealing and recreating chapter 5, section 10, subsection B, sub 1, sub D. Chapter 41, sections 1, 25, and 27 of the Lisbon Code Ordinance to address vaping.
There's a second.
One second.
Second by Paula. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Item H, discussion on options written in assessor services RFP.
All right, so I wanted to, we spoke about this again, in my previous meeting. I know that I could have just sent it out, but I wanted to be real clear on what the options were. You wanted, so I sent it out, I wanted to send it out with 2 different options. One option was performing a market update in 2025 and maintenance services 26 through 29. That is exactly what we do right now. So, our last market update was in 2021, and we've had maintenance done the rest of these years. So the, option 2 is to perform an exterior reevaluation in 2025. Maintenance services in 26, 27, market update in 28, and then in 29, maintenance again. And what that does right now, our village has not had an exterior revaluation since 2006. And so,
We had one.
I checked with Groden, they're the ones that told me the year, or a true.
It's not right, because we had people come in because they identified property, items on properties, because I remember one person in particular, they identified that his. I don't know how they did it, but I mean, the garage was not actually a garage, it was built out of house, they made it look like it was a garage still, they had like a fake door on it, but it wasn't, it was actually an addition on the house.
Hmm.
So they must have gone around at some point.
And it could have been.
'Cause I wasn't here in
something that was
06.
pulled, but,
Cause
Yeah,
we had a
this-
ton of people, I mean, it was like. That was the first year with Mike, maybe that was the 06 and it was done, maybe it was approved in 06 and done later, cause that was one of my first years on the board. And I mean, we were here for days.
yeah. Well, I had contacted Les, and this is the year he gave me, I was surprised it was that long ago. But
It was only, it might have been,
Yeah,
Mike Reed
because-
was here, it might have been 08. When we had the board review on them.
Yeah. 'cause
So,
we weren't gone that many years.
We had a
So-
market reassessment, but not a full, like, this is where they actually went on the village
2021. We had a,
market update.
yeah, so I'm sure we had
We had market updates between 06 and 21.
right,
yes.
I just asked
Yeah.
for,
Because.
I just asked
people-
for the last market.
People complained because they did not want them in their yard.
I remember that in another location.
I particularly do not want a village-wide revaluation where we're going and exterior looking.
All right,
I'd hate to do that to a board right off the bat too.
it's what will. If we happen to get a different firm, it's a good way for the firm to update all the cards, because it would be fresh eyes and.
Big money.
So I'm not sure what the money would be. So what I did was when I came up with these 2 options, then I came up with I requested a compensation, indicate the compensation for a maintenance year, what a village-wide reevaluate would be, and a market update, and then indicate a total compensation for option 1 and option 2. I can remove, the exterior
I guess how does-
revaluation if you think that's,
How's the rest of the board feel about those?
Can of worms?
It's horrible.
let's see, would be done in,
There's no rule that says you have to do it in any particular,
Well, we can just do a market evaluation. We don't have, there's rules, right? But we could just do a market evaluation. We don't have to do a physical reevaluation. Don't ever go through their homes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You wanna talk about torches and pitchforks, they'll be here.
yeah,
so do you want to, so I have the option of a market update as option one, and then maintenance the rest of the years. That's what we've been doing. That's what we just did. We did our 2021, we did the market update, and then we did the rest of the years as maintenance. But then in option two, I kind of beefed it up a bit. Do you not want option two and just give us option one? We don't have to have two options. We're just that after our discussion, I wasn't sure exactly which direction you wanted to go in, if you wanted something new every year.
I personally like option one. But on board review days, I'm gonna be watching TV. So.
You
It
do,
will be too.
you do, I know.
What did our assessor say? As far as the staff recommendation?
Staff recommendation, if we should go with a reeval or a market.
I guess was our assessor consulted to give us some technical guidance on this?
No, I did not consult them. I figured they will be
Lord,
being.
Will they be putting in a
able
bid?
To bid on it. You did, at border review, you did talk.
Yeah, let me
Didn't you?
flip back to my notes. Becky, do you remember what Les said at Board of Review? I don't
This
have.
year?
Yeah,
I know we are at, we have to do something.
it's not in my
next year.
minutes because it was,
Did we get noticed or?
while it was
Well, we're only at
adjourned,
70, we're only at
so I didn't take
74,
notes on it.
78%.
Right, you said something about, we
We're pretty
have,
low.
what, 5 years, and then, you know, they give you another 2 to get it done.
Right,
did we get notice that we have to do it?
We didn't get a
No,
notice.
no, we
but
haven't
you
gotten
dropped-
a notice.
According to the,
You drop more than 10%, it starts a 5-year clock. That's my understanding.
we're
Yeah,
already
I
at,
think we're at 78.
Yeah, I know we're
Cause
below
it dropped,
80.
I think it was the first year it dropped to 92 or something,
Yeah.
it was 80.
80. then we
Yeah,
were 80.
inflation.
I'm in favor of option 1.
I'm with Becky.
I'll go with you guys on.
So we'll just get rid of option two altogether. Do you want me to have them, break out the compensation for each of the years? So maintenance years, what that costs, what a, market update is, or just do option one?
Well, I think it'd be nice to have a full proposal, which would show what everything is.
Per year, you mean?
Yeah, like what does it cost to do the market update and then the maintenance of each year, what the estimated quote was gonna be. Rather than just one lump sum. I'm assuming they're gonna bill us per year.
I don't know if your, things are all out of order. But it's that order,
Yeah.
the introduction, and then somehow the statement assessment came in between the actual rest of the RFP. What's in?
Is this on all property?
all right.
The market reassessment is very non-invasive and minimal compared to what a
Yeah, it's just a
full,
computer based. They look at,
They look at
what's
houses
sold,
and what
what's
they
been
sold,
sold and
right?
stuff, and then they just,
If they have
it's all
anything
computer
sold
based,
or
so
not.
they don't go in, they don't go to anyone's house, and they don't update any cards, and they don't do any of this. Except the ones that pull the permit, those type of things.
house sales. I mean,
Well, they look at house sales, but they go to.
what if your house was sold?
Mhm. Yep.
If you had an arm's length sale, which I don't think even exists anymore,
Yes,
but
kind of.
willing seller, willing buyer on the market for a set number of days, I mean, everything sells the first day.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that anything truly meets that definition anymore,
Yeah.
personally, but
When you pull a permit though, they usually come out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
they do. Because we gather all the information to,
Right.
for them to pick up.
So I would do the market update and then see what compensation they would charge us for the other years. Because I think that's what Rhoda used to do.
Yeah. So do you still wanna go out for an RFP, or do you wanna just roll it right to Rhoda like that?
I would like to go an RFP. Grow
I've got it written, I just,
It's not even grow anymore.
Right.
Catalyst,
No.
no.
I can, yeah. I mean, I wrote this up, so I'll just take out option 2 information.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, when we actually did go out for bids, Grow always annihilated, but Mike had a love for the community and
Yeah,
he made, I mean, he just knew he was gonna come in low and
Mhm.
it's,
and we have no idea what this new company, because we've never dealt with them in the bidding process. So. All right, I got that going. We'll see it at the next, we'll see the results at the next board meeting.
item I, discussion and necessary action regarding hiring process and timeline for new administrator.
All right, so it's about that time, start looking at, what you'd like to do, to replace me. And, so, one of the things I wanted to make sure of is if you wanted to go through a process. We went through the process you went through for me, went through a smaller, process for, Nick's position. And, so I kind of wanted to give you and kind of get an idea of where you're going. If you have somebody in mind that you want to put in this position, then maybe we don't want to spend $25,000. So, I, just wanted to bring that forward for you. And then if you were going to look at, the new position, what do you want to, what do you actually want to, this, position, what are the strong points that you want to bring in? What are the strengths that you want to see in your new administrator? And I think that might be a good way to start if you're looking at decide if you're looking for someone that has that's strong. So I kind of put down things that might have been some of my weaker points, because you'd want the next person to have maybe some of the strengths where my weaker points were. And so I know that there are people that are stronger in HR. Maybe somebody that's gone through definitely a TID creation and process, because we might be looking at one of those student economic growth or development. Somebody that is in that position that can take over planning skills. Somebody that has dealt with sewer and water infrastructure, because we have 2 projects that are possibly going to be coming in our village in the next year or so. And
just having somebody in-house, that is real strong and utilities might be a helpful thought. Those were just some of the things off the top of my head that I thought might be things to think about. You know, we have somebody that can do clerk work, we have somebody that does, finance, but this position is the one that, well, you know what this position is on. I've been here.
I mean, this could almost be a workshop question in itself, to be honest with you. But things are gonna change. I mean, boards are changing, history is going, I mean,
And 25 is gonna be a big change.
it's gonna be a lot of change. Do we, what does everyone want? Do you want a veteran? Do you want somebody that knows the community? Do you want somebody that's gonna learn? I mean, this is gonna be a big deal.
If you wanna bring somebody up and teach them the process of being an administrator, or if you want somebody that's been an administrator in a community that can really be a driving force. It's gonna be important. But I wanted to bring this forward. We can talk about it more in September. At a workshop.
This needs to get going.
I know,
I mean,
but
we are
it
at-
takes 14 weeks. And that brings us to the beginning, this timeline that they have would be about 14. And, looking at that brings somebody in around December. At the beginning of December. And so if somebody knows their stuff and they've been here before, they know how.
If we started
village
today,
works.
that's November 20th.
What?
If we started today, 14 weeks is November 20th.
Right. I figured we weren't gonna start today, but. Yeah.
But if we start next week, it's the 27th. If we start the week after that, it's December 4th.
So you wanna do
But
a
it's
special-
14 weeks to the point of hiring somebody, and then they're gonna give a month notice.
maybe, depends on the person,
Typical,
I do,
yeah, I mean, it's,
in this
We're
high
almost-
position, usually you.
unfortunately, we're almost doing this late again.
So, I mean, I'm sure we can. Crunch some of that time, they have, their timeline has, things that. We could kick out a lot faster. Now, the time that they're out doing the search, that you wanna keep that amount of time available. But I'm trying to find the. Timeline again.
Well, just to answer your question, is there anybody knows that would,
We need to be very careful, we don't say any
I was gonna
names.
say,
well, just,
Just put that out there.
okay,
Can't say names right
I'm not saying,
now, okay? That would be
Okay.
very bad.
So the,
no, I get that.
project timeline. Is just, the position assessment, position announcement, and they've got that as 2 weeks and the brochure, and we already have the assessment done, they just did the job description. And so. Would that actually take 2 weeks? I understand advertising, recruitment, outreach, that's gonna take some time. And then our, evaluations and screening is another 3 weeks. Presentation of the candidates is another, they've got it down as a week, but I'm sure we don't need a week to present all the recommended candidates. So we've got a lot to do between now and the end of the year. Not only this, we've got a whole budget to put together and finalize our code. So we're got a lot to do.
and we're not married to
Doug?
GovHR.
No, I just wanted to, GovHR gave us that, what we did before, we could get a price from the same company that did ours. I did mine in the past. Or mine 4 years ago. And for Schmidt,
We can't wait a month to have this next meeting.
so we can, set up another meeting if you'd like. Everybody got their calendars?
I guess, and people need to, we're gonna have to figure out a scope of what's requested, then, I mean, you had valid points of what are we looking for in the next
Right.
administrator, the problem is I don't know if anybody.
But
Because
you're
I
not
don't
gonna know
necessarily-
until you start talking.
Yeah, that's what we have to figure out, but. I've been through this a couple times, Becky's been through this a couple times, but.
Mhm.
Obviously, Mark, you too. Um. One thing that I would look at too is what has been the success with candidates out there. In different communities, but the pool of who's been available. And where it's, you know, so like if GovHR has been. Used in different areas, I mean, Pewaukee just had a process, I know somebody else, Tennessee had a process. Was it Tennessee, who was that?
I know that Pewaukee just, they just hired someone,
Maybe reaching out, who, I don't know
and
who
it
they
wasn't
used,
GovHR. I
That
think it
was-
was Chris Schultz.
that was Schultz,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Schwartz. Yes, I think it's
Pewaukee, Village of Pewaukee.
Village of Pewaukee. He just hired somebody.
No, they used, personnel party.
Personal records. I knew it wasn't GovHR because I talked to
It's
Bailey.
That's Chris Schwartz. right? That's who we
Think
use.
So. Mhm.
That be.
That's.
That's the
Chris.
same one. Chris Schwartz.
Mhm. So. I mean, I can get a quote from them, but I just wasn't sure, I didn't wanna put in any effort into getting proposals. If you guys weren't ready, or you weren't interested in using someone, or you just wanted to walk somebody in the door.
It's hard to have that discussion when you can't say names.
Again. So, do we have a date that might work for us
To do.
to have a workshop to talk about? This, the structure of the new administrator? What you'd like to, necessary strengths and experience? And, then at the same time, could talk about, if you wanted to go with a vendor to choose a person. And then also, I need to get an idea, do you want me to be involved at all? In the, recruitment?
If we're hiring a firm, I think that's the
Yeah.
firm's job.
I mean, I would say, if we're using the firm, you just be the liaison between the firm and us, and. We're gonna have to be the decision makers on who it is.
Well, how soon are we talking?
No,
I mean, for the
Like this-
meeting, and I'm free tomorrow. I'm free tomorrow night and Friday night.
yeah, I think you're looking at next week.
Maybe we have a
I can't do it next week, I've company.
public works.
And joint review board Thursday.
Public works is at 5 on.
Thursday.
Next week,
CRP
Thursday.
Meeting on
Yeah.
22nd, we got a.
Mhm.
My commission, 20
We have a JRB meeting on the 22nd, but that's, you know, that only takes,
yeah, short.
you know, half hour maybe. We could do something a little earlier that day, because we're gonna be here at 5 p.m.
That week of the 26th. Is a bad week for me.
Yeah, 28th, we have board meeting.
Plan commission.
Planning commission.
Yeah, and that's leading into Labor Day weekend.
Realistically, it's gotta be something. I'll just do it 21st.
What?
21st.
21st.
I can't.
I could do the 21st.
That'd be a. In a board, I mean, would workshop or board meeting
Just the
is,
workshop.
Becky, could you do it by Zoom or call in?
No, I have
Oh, you have company, got it.
On the 21st, I'm going to the airport, so.
Yeah, that wouldn't work. What about the 19th or 20th for anyone?
Becky
I mean,
can't.
we know,
I have.
three of us know we can do the
At all.
21st. She's got the whole week.
Okay,
So the,
Linda will have to talk to her to see what her availability is.
So if we
Definitely
could do it on the
not.
21st, what time would we do it? What time would that be?
Potentially be earlier that thing.
I'm just. Committee's set for 5.
I have a heavy agenda.
It's gonna be out.
yes. So you're gonna be talking about the sewer service area. It's gonna take a while.
Was an hour enough? No, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like hearing at the park committee meeting that they're running out of time talking about things.
Yeah, it was
That was not-
mostly just a. It was mostly just,
They're all complaining about that though. I know it was one person today. But they're all disgruntled about that. That we aren't giving them enough time.
enough
You may
time.
want to discuss the talk and bring and discuss things. This is the first park committee meeting I've been at in a long time. So I'm not saying it's justified, but I'm saying they are complaining. About that. We're restricting their amount of time to discuss things and it's. We don't get restricted. We get restricted by the fact that we have to go to work the next morning. But. It's hard to hear that at times. No, I'm not at the meeting though. You have to, I guess.
There's been times where I had to schedule, where we weren't even, or. At
There's-
6 o'clock or right before 6 o'clock, just
Is it perception or is it reality? I guess is what I'm.
that they're always late, that we're cutting people off. Well,
That it's running out of time.
We kind of put heavier stuff on. I mean, we've got the 5-year project, but we've got so many other things and then suddenly they get stuck on talking about one item
I heard it.
over and over again,
I heard it. tonight.
that,
Community Fest just ate so much time up.
yeah. So then we didn't get to the 5-year capital plan, or the project plan, but I think I
The
wasn't.
committee meetings
anticipating
can't go
everything.
5 hours.
No,
They need to have a thought of how long they're gonna go. I just. Obviously, people have said stuff. I mean, I just wanna make sure. I mean, tonight I seen it. I mean, it was just beating down the same point, one thing over and over again. And I don't know if that's the norm or an exception to this one.
Tonight was,
and last meeting was the same one.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, with just that.
But that's not how it normally is.
No, usually you guys are done by 5:45.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't felt any pressure about it. I mean, we might set things to the next agenda, but nothing's pressing. We've always gotten the stuff done that we needed to get done without a problem.
Well, historically, people don't say things to the people who need to hear them. They just don't.
Yeah.
They go to this person, to this person, to this
Yeah.
person, to this person, and then by the time
Unfortunate.
it's just,
Nothing's gonna change if nobody hears it.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. It's just, you know how it's been working. It's unfortunate. Cause they didn't seem to be, I mean, I heard it tonight. But. I don't want to name names and said things, but I mean, obviously.
There was high emotion tonight.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I think this, to me, this seemed like a. Oddball meeting, but it's like, as far as that, it stands out, not that it's the norm.
No,
that's not the one. It just, the last 2 meetings have been.
yeah, this subject matter is just very,
Yeah,
So, the 21st, Wednesday, the 21st,
at what time?
what time can you guys make it?
well, you get the committee meeting.
Committee's at 5.
Oh, yeah, that's right. How about the 22nd? You cannot, on Thursday.
6:15 Wednesday, 6:30.
I would be fine with that. Assuming nobody calls it sick. That's a daily thing.
All right, anybody have an idea? On when this meeting could be?
It's 21st.
21st, after you meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, and do we have a time that we want to,
6:15.
6:15, okay? All right,
Think about what we're looking for in an administrator and bring that with you.
Okay.
Item 13 is adjournment.
I make a motion.
Adjourn. Motion made and seconded, discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries at 8:49.
One sec to hit end.